It's from a lot of different places. My mom is from Australia, my dad's from Canada, and somehow I ended up in Aiken, South Carolina, which if you think about, it's kind of halfway on the latitudinally from everything. So it's kind of a lot of different places, but have ended up being sent over here most summers to be a jackaroo and kind of get that side of upbringing as well as the side from the States. So it's kind of fun. I studied at a university in the States called Auburn University, and it's where I did my undergraduate, and then I did my master's at NC State University, which is actually where I have ended up living now in Raleigh, North Carolina. So it's kind of funny. Went there to school, thought I'd be there for 2 years, and then that's turned into almost 20. Do teach through NC State their summer abroad program in Prague in the Czech Republic. It's great because I get to teach industrial design, but in a completely foreign setting, and kind of pull from those influences. That nationality's really strong in ceramics and glass and things like that. The Czechs are, and being able to show that side to American designers, which in the area where we are in Raleigh is not as prevalent. The high-end porcelain work and good ceramic work and the glass work is almost non-existent. So it's neat to be able to pull that way, those views. Actually, I think I've always wanted to be a designer. When I was 4 years old, I used to make cities for my Hot Wheel cars to drive around, and then, but I didn't really even know what industrial design was until my senior year in high school, year 12, that I found that there was even something called industrial design. And so I think as soon as I saw that was an option, this light went off, and I said, oh, that's what I have to do. Because I think I was going to be a journalism major otherwise, and that, I don't know how I can do that being dyslexic, but it seemed to make sense at the time. I think there's a lot of designers that have really influenced me. It's hard to say one particular one. I pull from, I think, different genres of design. I'm really, I think the first, I guess it was two, but a husband and wife pair that really I wanted to really study was Charles and Ray Eames, and I think they've been a really kind of interesting model to follow, as being the fact that my wife and I are both designers, and that you can coexist in that environment. You can be a designer, and your wife can be a designer, and you can collaborate and not be, kind of, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Argumentative, but it can be a very positive experience. And I think that's what from that side. Well, I think that they did a really simple and clean line. I think one of their chairs, the DCM, which is a really beautiful molded plywood and steel chair, is something I think that simple but beautiful, and probably my most favorite or prized designer object happens to be one of their original Eames splints, leg splints. It's a sculptural piece, so beautiful, but yet was, I guess, charged or designed to handle such a horrible situation. They designed it in such a way that it would fit any soldier's leg, size, but plus have space to put parts of that leg, or wrappings or whatever in it, and yet still be beautiful, and yet just the horrific nature of what it had to deal with. I think the pocket vase would have to be the one that I'm really most proud of, because I wanted to design something that was very, very simple and almost disappears when being used properly, and also the connotation of which it lives in. It helps somebody that's given a flower, that has received that flower, find a place for that flower, no matter what they have around them. It doesn't require a vase or anything like that. A cup is all that's necessary to hold that flower upright and in the manner of which that flower was originally given. And that's kind of that subtlety and nuance to that product, I think, is greater than the actual design of the product. And that's kind of kind of a nice thing when the product almost disappears, but yet serves that purpose in a beautiful way. Well, I think there's always an inspiration. There's something that catches my eye in such a way that I'm almost, I guess, compulsed to either explore that inspiration or find a way to solve a problem, if you will. The inspiration is I say, oh, that was a beautiful act. How can I recreate that in a product form? Then that's one thing. Or if I see that there's a real problem doing something, how do I solve that problem and make life easier? And sometimes those things work hand in hand. Sometimes they're separate, and sometimes they're different. And that, I think, is what really drives my design. And then after I kind of just think about the problem or the inspiration for a while, then I really go to sketching and just draw and draw and draw, just randomly, kind of try to take it different ways, different avenues. Then I love to make models. I love the three-dimensional side of it. I only go to the computer at the end because I think there needs to, every time you go to a computer, you lose the human element a little bit, and I really want that three-dimensionality, that touch, feel, weight, all that working with hands still. Give it some personality, some soul, if you will. And I think that then after that, then I go to the computer, put it into a 3D modeling, and then have it produced. She's always the best sounding board. I think she is the most brutally honest person in the world, which is great. And even though I may disagree with what she says at the time, I find that invariably she's right. So I just have to let. I think that's the ego that some designers have. You have to. It's a baby, and you don't want to change it. But then, the reality is when someone she's able to back up what she says, it's just really nice. And so she is the main impetus for most of the products. Right now, I'm having actually a lot of fun. Professionally, I'm doing some very standard designs right now, so it's vacuum cleaners and things like that. But my personal side, I want to be a little bit more theoretical, and that was kind of the real push with these products, the totems, the idea of manifesting fairly nebulous qualities or traits. How do you package luck, or how do you package the idea of power? Is there a three-dimensional way to actually do that? Or creativity? And if you could do that some way, would it be something that people would want to buy to remind themselves? And how do you reinforce those images and those traits and those qualities into people's lives in a unique way? And that's kind of the fun thing. It's a little bit more theoretical, but I think in the long term is kind of a fun approach to design. Well, I think World Show is probably one of the most amazing groups that I've ever seen, and I've been lucky. I've been to ICFF in New York and Copenhagen and all these different places and seen the way people do things. This is the one kind of real exhibition that I see that takes really independent people, brings them together, and yet celebrates the work, at the same time brings the public into that world, and not just in a gallery setting where only a few people would even know about it, but puts it into a real commerce area or living area where day-to-day people walk by it and then have to think about design. And I think, to me, that's an amazing thing. I actually see this. I actually see workshops should be a model for most countries, in most events, because it is one of the few places that does it, I think, the right way. It is, and that's the reason why I love doing the show. I look forward to it, and I'm constantly thinking what would be a neat direction to go with a product for a workshop, and then I'm hoping that it's good enough to get into workshops, because it is a wonderful event. It's a wonderful organization, and it's a wonderful excuse to come home and feel like I'm really coming home. So it's kind of a neat way of doing things.